All right, well, welcome to Beyond Sunday, a podcast we do here at the Bridge Church that's about faith, life, and work. And today I've got Yvonne with us.
Hello.
Good to have you with us, Yvonne. Welcome to Beyond Sunday. I usually, there's usually some banter at the beginning of the episode, and Yvonne,
I told you already.
I told Yvonne that we've got. I had an opener for you, and what did you think I was going to open with?
Fantasy basketball.
Fantasy basketball. You thought that was going to be that me and you would have nothing to talk about, and that I would resort to talking about fantasy basketball, which your husband is involved in.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah, and that I would I don't know what. He's better than me in fantasy basketball.
That's why I asked him.
I don't even want to bring it up.
I asked him yesterday. I said, "Are you really better than Craig and all these other guys?" Because that's what they say.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I guess.
So why would I bring this thing up when I don't know
what else we can talk about.
I don't have any trash talk. I don't have anything good.
Or we can talk about fast food and how I think Chick-fil-A is a better.
Yvonne, that's exactly.
Oh, really? Is that what was?
That's literally the thing.
Awesome.
Look at that.
Okay,
you got it on the second try.
Okay, that's very good.
Fantasy basketball, not a chance. But I did. That is exactly what I wanted to talk about.
I'm so glad.
I deliberately.
I can talk about this.
This is audio recording, so people can't see this. But I did this just for your sake.
Really?
I've got my In-N-Out T-shirt. Okay. I've got my In-N-Out Burger socks actually as well. You see that? So,
yes, I see it. Yeah. Okay, you dressed up for me. I'm so touched. Oh my gosh, what an honor.
This is an ongoing rivalry, not rivalry. It's an ongoing debate between me and you and Siki.
Well, not
your
just
husband.
me and Siki, but there are other families in church who felt the same way.
No, well, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't want to name them, but there are a few.
It's probably good because I would question their sanity as well then. Mm-hmm. So the ongoing debate.
Yes.
So my love for In-N-Out Burger, I think, is pretty well established.
Yes, I'm clear.
And I like Chick-fil-A.
Yes.
I got no problem with it. And it is, I'm in Chick-fil-A and I'm in Washington State in a Chick-fil-A, and they got worship music playing. That's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. But you try to make your case. Try to sell me on the idea that Chick-fil-A is a superior fast food restaurant to In-N-Out Burger.
Well, I think it's harder, first of all, to make a juicy chicken burger than a beef burger. Okay. Beef burger, all you need are fresh ingredients. Right? Okay. Chicken, you have to deep fry it in the perfect temperature with the perfect batter. So, and then on top of the fresh ingredients. So I think there's a little bit more skill involved. That's number one. Okay. Two, if you actually read about how, I have not read the In-N-Out book yet. I'm going to read about it. Burger. Yeah. But I did read some research on the Chick-fil-A business model and how they operate and how they have the owner-operator thing happening and how they don't just franchise to people who know nothing about restaurant business or maybe people who have money to open up a restaurant. They don't just give it away to anyone. They really look at the person. And they really want to build that community. That person has to be from the community, and that person has to share the same type of business values, which are Christian values, as Chick-fil-A. Right. So that's why when you go to Chick-fil-A, everyone's pleasant. Right. Everyone ends with my pleasure, right? It's just so delightful to go to a fast food place where people actually are happy to work there, right? I would say that In-N-Out people
that does not give you
In-N-Out, I think they're happy too, but they seem a little stressed. Don't you agree? They seem very stressed.
It's because it's insanely popular,
right?
I go in, I get it. I'm like 40 orders back because of how many people.
Right. So now, if
have this desperate longing for In-N-Out
that's
Burger.
Part of So I have a business background, right? So I would say then I think In-N-Out just needs to learn how to scale better than Chick-fil-A. That's it, right? So it's just a more pleasant experience. Yeah. I'm not denting on, In-N-Out. It's a great place. But I do think Chick-fil-A does a better job in terms of how they run their business, how they make the burger. And they have something as inventive as something called Sunjoy. It's lemonade, iced tea combined. They call it Sunjoy. It's so good.
All right.
Okay.
Well, you tried and
I
you
tried to
completely failed to persuade me.
No, I think the audience would know. Yeah, they all want to go to Chick-fil-A.
Do they?
Yes. Yeah. There's one in Seattle. You don't have to go all the way to Vancouver, Washington.
I won't.
Or you could go to Edmonton.
I won't try to rebut it. I'll just say read the ins and outs of In-N-Out Burger, Yvonne. Yes. You've got to read that, and then you'll gain a love for the business of In-N-Out.
Sabbath, which is another.
That is true. That's a great thing.
Yes, that's a great thing. All right.
My thing with Chick-fil-A is that there's a place here in North Van where they have a chicken sandwich.
Yeah, but that's not fast food.
Well,
you're paying.
It's borderline. It's borderline fast food.
Yeah, the fact that it has no seating doesn't make it fast food. Okay. I know which place you're talking about.
You know what I'm and I actually would take that burger, that chicken sandwich over Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
But
anyway.
Okay.
That's more gourmet.
It's good to get that off our chest.
Okay.
It's good. It's good to also point out that you're not wearing any Chick-fil-A apparel. So who's the bigger fan here? Anyways, let's move on.
All right, let's move on. I felt attacked now.
That's what I like to do with the podcast guests. You start.
Yeah. So this is how the pastor goes after its congregation.
That's right. Exactly. I want to get you into a room, and I just want to make you feel bad about all the things that you believe.
You know what? The only thing I feel bad for is not wearing my Chick-fil-A attire.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
Everything else.
Yeah. No. All jokes aside, I like Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is great.
Okay. Good. In-N-Out's not bad. And actually, when I used to live in the U.S., we go to In-N-Out all the time.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's one of these. We've been talking about Romans 14 and 15, disputable matters.
Somber judgment, Craig.
Don't judge, don't hold in contempt, right? That's what I got to work on.
There you go.
We can, anyways. Okay. Enough of that. Yvonne, let's get into some deeper stuff here.
Right. Okay.
So tell us the story because you did not grow up in a Christian home.
No, I did not.
And yet now here you are, very involved at the Bridge Church.
Yes.
What happened between then and now to bring about this change?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So happy to share. So I guess since there's no camera and you might not know me, I'm in my 40s. Right. So, and I was actually born in Hong Kong to a non-Christian family. Hong Kong is a place where it's quite secular, even though there's quite a bit of Christian influence, especially around education, healthcare, things like that. So I grew up in a secular family that does a lot of ancestor worshiping, fortune telling, reading, those type of things, right? But interestingly enough, my dad decided to put all 5 of us kids in a Christian school. And the reason behind that is that Christian schools tend to be really good at what they do. And the school that I was enrolled in is also a pretty good one in terms of not just academics, but also in terms of how kids behave, the values that it teaches. So generally kids are quite good there. But I remember when I was young, my dad would tell me, or my parents, I don't remember who, would tell me that, go and, be a good student, but, don't believe in anything they teach around Bibles and, right. Jesus. That's for like white people. Like that's really literally what he said. That's for foreigners, right? Yeah. That's not for us Chinese. We Chinese, we have our own thing, right? So
and when you were going to that school, were there other like Chinese people from Hong Kong who were believers?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So it's a Christian school like any other private schools. They accept people of all faith.
Yeah.
And unlike Catholic school where you get bonus points for being Catholic and they will accept you, I think for that one, maybe you might have some slight advantage. But it's not a requirement for you to be a believer.
Yeah. But there were, so your parents kind of had this idea that this is for foreigners.
Yeah.
But actually, in your setting, there were Christian Hong Kong families.
Yeah. Oh, in Hong Kong, there's still quite a bit. I think there's 10% of population in Hong Kong that are Protestants, right? But so there's still somewhat sizable, right? But among my our families, our relatives, none of them are believers. But it's just interesting that, my parents choose to send us to that school.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the first time I heard about Jesus was through the school. And I like the idea of, someone named Jesus who loves little children. That was very appealing to me. Because in a traditional Chinese household, you don't necessarily have that same level of intimacy with, your parents, right? Not saying that my parents don't love me, but it doesn't, not to that level of affection, right? But anyway, so after grade 3, we moved from Hong Kong to Canada, and that was pretty much the end of my exposure to Christianity, unfortunately.
Yeah. What stands out to you about, like, so you just talked about what stood out to you a little bit there. What else do you remember about, like, were there certain stories that especially stood out to you that
I remember not so much the stories, but I remember the teacher. Okay. So in my last year, grade 3, my grade 3 homeroom teacher actually gave me 2 things. He's a really strong believer. I could tell he's young, strong, loves his students, and so he gave every student a little poster called The Footprints. The stories, The Footprint, right? Yeah. And so it was that story with this very nice image of the footprint story. So that was like my treasure, because that was like one thing that I can keep with me. That is my own, right? So it's not a Bible, but it's like a story of being carried by Jesus when times are tough, right? So that was really one thing that really stood out to me. And then the second thing is not necessarily really, but he actually gave me a warning. He said that and this is also just who I am. I guess I grew up being very talkative, and I was never the good student. So my 3rd grade teacher was very kind to me, and he just said, I know that you're super friendly and super happy, and you like to share all things, but when you move to Canada, you might want to rethink this.
Okay.
He said you might want to, I guess it's like respect, right? Not. So he's like, you gotta keep in mind, not everyone might like to be talked to this way and things like that. That kind of stood out to me. I'm laughing now because that is totally not Canadian. Right. And he clearly doesn't know much about the Canadian culture. There's not much of a hierarchy, not to that extent. Yeah. But I find that heartwarming because he took the time to give me that that heads up. Okay. He genuinely cared about me. He wanted me to be successful. Yeah. So that attention, to his students, it's like, a shepherd and the sheep, right? Like I felt loved. Mm-hmm. And even though I'm going to a new country, even though I'm super excited, but those assurances gave me hope that things will be okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah. Okay, so you moved to Canada. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the end of your exposure to Christian faith as a kid.
Right. Yeah. And then, so basically, I honestly, I have a really good life in Canada in terms of my parents are loving. My siblings are, being elder siblings. I was the youngest. And they were good kids who overperforms in school. They don't go out. They study hard. They listen to the parents, and they give me a lot of pressure as the youngest in the family. Yeah. So I always remember that I'm not behaving right. I'm spending too much money, and by spending too much money means I'm the only kid who actually learned piano.
Okay, what do you mean?
Like they didn't get to play piano, and then
you were spending money, as in like your parents were spending money on you?
Me.
Oh, okay, by getting you piano lessons.
Yes, and getting me and giving me a piano.
This kid's spoiled.
Yes,
because she has to do piano lessons.
Yes, because it's a privilege. Right, so I grew up with more privilege than my siblings.
As a kid, I would have loved to be less privileged in that way.
I you know what? I know what you're saying, because like it gave me a lot of pressure, right? To live up to that, and
because this was like a huge privilege, now you better excel at it.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And even though I'm lazy, but I would always kill myself to pass all the exams decently, right? Like, and even though at one point I really don't want to do it, I actually even thought of self-harming myself so I don't have to do a piano exam. Really? I was really stressed. Wow. But I didn't, and I did it. And so I put a lot of pressure on myself. I don't think, obviously my parents or my siblings might remind of my privilege, but it exemplifies or it multiplies the effect. Yeah. So I can't say, so I grew up in Canada with eventually some sort of an imposter syndrome. So I would act confident and happy that I know what I'm doing. But the reality is I feel really bad about who I am. I felt that I'm always not living up to the standard, the expectation my parents or my sisters and brothers has set. And actually the most scary thing would be, because all of us went to same school. So when I get to a certain grade, they will say, oh, is who and who your brother or sister? Yeah. Then I'll be like, oh, because that's the shoes I will have to fill. Right, and I'll be like, oh, now I have to disappoint more people. Right? but the real. Yeah. So anyway, okay. So with that being kind of pretending to be this like confident, outspoken kid, but in fact I'm highly insecure, got me into some trouble, especially in relations to relationships. So in high school, I dated a boy. Probably not the best idea, and because I thought that's the cool thing to do, right? That's what you're supposed to do when you're 15, 16, and of course my parents can't know anything about it, my siblings can't know anything about it, but I bet they know everything about it, right? And then of course after going out with him for about a year or so, we broke up. That totally traumatized me because I never had an identity, right? So when I began to associate myself with this boy, my identity became I'm this person's girlfriend. Yeah. And when I lost that, I'm like, who am I again, right? And then I have to be strong. I have to be confident. I have to be this amazing person because that's how people know who I am. So I was like, you know what? Like, forget about filling in people, the expectation of my family, all this. I'm going to leave. So I left and I basically told a little lie to my dad saying that, hey, you know what? You should send me to, the East Coast, right? To Quebec. Because then I can learn French, I can, go into law school, I'll be great, this and that. And my dad's like, okay, right?
And you didn't care about learning French?
I did. Okay. I actually do. Okay. I do want to, I am globally curious, right? So I do want that. Yeah. But I think what I wanted more is to get out.
So the lie wasn't necessarily, you weren't telling them things that were untrue, you were just leaving out the part that really was the
which
real
is, I
reason.
really want to leave.
Yeah.
I really want to find out who I am.
Right.
I really wanted to get away from, not the pressure. I mean, again, my family is great, but they probably, until maybe 2 podcasts, they probably didn't realize how much pressure I was in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, so I left, and then I went to university, and then of course, first semester I'm like, wow, nobody's gonna check on me. I'm gonna do whatever I want. And then I start not showing up for school, skipping classes because I would be so tired I would fall asleep. And then there was a time there's something called ICQ, so I'll be like messaging people. Like, it's like MSN, but the earlier generation, and I'll be chatting to just people, and I wouldn't sleep. And I just didn't do much schoolwork. Huh. And then basically I didn't do well in my first semester. Okay. And then I had to tell my parents.
So you had no accountability for a little bit, and that was amazing, and then it caught up to you pretty quickly.
Yes, unfortunately. Okay. And my dad, he was, again, he's a good dad. He's just said one line. He said, if you're not going to smarten up next semester, you're coming home. Okay. So I'm like, but that is actually the beginning of how God's working, right? Because by the second semester, I'm like, you know what? Forget about my friends who I was hanging out with in my first semester. I need to hang out with good people. So I started to hang out with Christians. So
was that intentional, or that just that from your perspective was that just like a
maybe because I came from a Christian background, so I just kind of presumed that people who have a faith generally they're more disciplined. Okay. They probably care a bit more about school. So maybe if I spend more time with them, maybe I'll start building up those habits and I'll become a better student, and maybe we can kind of help out each other when it comes to homework. So
that was the motive. So you kind of sought out Christians because you figured that was the best path to academic advancement.
I'm so embarrassed.
But that does say something positively about the kind of Christian witness that you'd been exposed to up to that point. In life.
Right. Like I do think good things. But like it left a strong impression. Right.
Yeah.
So I didn't like go seek out a bunch. What happened was I met one. Right. And then her name's Ada. She was my maid honor. And then she's like, oh, okay. Hey, you want to meet some of my friends? Turns out they're all Christians.
Okay.
and then they're like, hey, you want to go study in the library? I'm like, okay. Right. And then they're like, hey, you want to come to campus fellowship? I'm like, oh, okay. Right. Because I feel bad. Right. I feel like
not as exciting as studying in the library.
But then I feel like, hey, I'm using them to help me with my studies.
Right.
The least I can do is to show up to a Christian, activity.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which
just like quick like pause there. Just the act of inviting somebody.
Yeah.
Is powerful, right?
Right.
Like you might say, well, this person's not interested. They're never going to say yes, right?
Clearly, if you were to see me at that time, which Eric can attest, I had like
another friend at the bridge who knew you in university.
Yes, exactly. So I wouldn't say a punk, but I was, I think I was maybe a little bit snobby.
Okay.
Maybe. No, I'm not saying that snobby rich, but think I'm better than everyone else.
You weren't exuding like
humility.
Please invite me to your Bible study. That wasn't the message you were portraying. Yet they still took that step.
Yes.
They made the invitation.
Yes.
And perhaps were surprised when you actually said yes.
Well, I don't know if they were surprised. I think they were happy that I was. And then they were happy I showed up.
Yeah.
And I think, and I'm going to say this, the first time I showed up, and it was actually on a fellowship of Easter. And so the university students, like second, third, fourth year, they're reenacting not the crucifixion, but Mary, going to the empty tomb. I still remember this because I was like watching this. I'm like, this looks so ridiculous, right? Because we're poor students, right? We have no money. Campus has no money. Yeah. Like we're self-funded, right? The organization self-funded. It's not like Campus Crusade where we're getting money from our organization, but then there's so much joy. Like the people who were acting, they were so happy. But like for me, I don't know Jesus personally. I'm just kind of looking at them like, they look so ridiculous. But why are they so happy?
Yeah.
Right? Like this does not look professionally produced or anything like that.
Yeah.
But then they were like, oh, do you want to come to church, right? I'm like, okay. And I met more people that are, maybe even older than me, master's students, people who are working, professionals. And I was like, okay, like these people must be, very gullible. Like how, and then I was like challenging them, right? Based on the little I know, right? I'm like, how do you know the Bible's true, right? How do you know this? How do you know that, right? And then, but one thing that really touched me is they were so patient with me. They were like, yeah, you know what? I think, let's park that aside. Let's kind of slowly study this. One day you'll, maybe, God will show you, right? All that stuff. But I think, so I know this is only 1 hour podcast. I went on for 20 minutes already, so I'm going to cut this short. Sorry.
No, that's great.
But what I wanted to say was, but as I spend more time with them, I start to see this genuine joy they have. And I really want it. And, because I remember I was still carrying all these pains that I had, from when I was in Vancouver. Living in Montreal doesn't change who I am as a person. If anything, the fact that I see all these people being super happy and, me being miserable, even though I had a pretty lucky upbringing, coming from a good family, like that really bothered me, right? So I remember one night actually, I was just like, reminded of my pain. I was just crying in my bed on my own, just kind of sobbing, like what is this? Like, is this, like, I just kind of see myself such a failure, right? Like, I try to do things, but I can't do it on my own. I keep making the same mistakes. I can't overcome this. And I remember, I remember Jesus, right? And then I prayed to him that night. I said, Jesus, if you're that true God, somehow you'll make me feel better. I know rationally, I know that you're not going to change my past. But I know that if you are that God, whatever I'm feeling, it's going to go away. So I was making that prayer. And then that was the end of it. Next day, I woke up. I felt happy. I was like, what happened? Like, I just felt really happy. I felt light. I remember the next day I was just walking down the street and I was like skipping on the street. Whereas before I'll be walking slowly in the rain feeling miserable. Now I'm just like happy.
Yeah.
But then at that time I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know the Holy Spirit came. I didn't know all that stuff.
Right.
Actually, it took me like 20 years at the retreat at the bridge for me to realize, actually truly understand what was happening.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't again, that was
when we did like the Holy
Spirit weekend. Yes.
Thing with Alpha.
When then, yes, exactly. Till Joel explained to me, actually that might sound like the work of Holy Spirit. I was
Interesting.
like, oh, okay. Yeah, because Baptist, I came from a Baptist background. We don't really talk about Holy Spirit. So,
well, you're in a Baptist church
Baptist
now,
Alliance, we don't, we talk a lot about Jesus, but not the bridge, right? Yeah. But in my
previous experience, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Anyway, so I was like, I didn't know how to tell people because I remember mocking my fellow Christian friends, right? So I can't go and tell them that, I'm a Christian, right? But anyway.
So it was like in terms of like actually saying that you are a Christian.
Yeah, I felt
it was
like
kind of like you'd gone to bed, you'd prayed this prayer, you woke up the next day, you felt this joy.
And I know it's from God.
Right. And so that it was that kind of that's where you made this conscious decision to say yes to Jesus.
I don't know how conversion works at that time.
Yeah.
So I actually don't remember the date of that.
Sure. Yeah.
But I remember wishing someone would ask me.
Yeah.
Do you want to believe or accept Jesus?
Because you were so ripe.
I was so ready, right?
Yeah.
But that happened a month later at a Christian camp.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like so eager, Okay. And again, little I know, right? Oh, they actually call like 10 times, right?
Yeah.
But like the first time they call, I like shoot my hand up, like, come on, like just give it to me now, right? But I was like so happy to receive this joy and to know that. Like, I didn't really understand salvation specifically, how Jesus take that away from me. Okay. But I felt that. Yeah. I felt that heaviness being taken away from me. And it's not until I start to really study the Bible, really understand what, crucifixion meant, what salvation meant, what redemption meant, what sins really means, then I realized, this is actually what happened.
Right. Okay.
Like then now the fact and how I'm feeling, now it's aligned.
But having been immersed in Christian community, seeing how Christians lived
really
and being drawn to that, and then this experience of the joy of the Lord, made you so ripe that the belief that Jesus died and rose from the dead, which maybe beforehand might have been this like I could never believe that. Exactly. That's crazy. Yeah. All of a sudden you're like, yeah, of course that's true. Is that would that be true?
Yeah. Accurate? I'll be like, let's assume that's true. Let's learn about how that's true.
Yeah, sure.
As opposed to there's no way it's true, I'm not going to listen. Right? So it changes my perspective, right? Like from being closed, not wanting to study the Bible, thinking it's all lies, to like, okay, well, this feeling I have, this is supernatural. And I don't think it's, because from what my experience is in ancestor worship and fortune telling, they don't do things like this. They don't go make you feel better like that, right? Like you don't ask for those things, right? But that happened. So I know that it's because of the prayer I prayed. Right. I know it can't be from anything else. Yeah. And that's why I was like, okay, you know what? I really need to know the Bible now. Yeah. Because now this is my identity. I really need to know what this means. Yeah. Yeah.
So you've talked about identity a few times already, and I know that has continued to be a big deal for you even later on in your life with career stuff. Right. Which is actually just interesting, right? That like some of the things that Jesus really does set us free from. It's sometimes it's not like boom and I never thought about it or struggled with it again, right?
No, not at all.
But instead, so often it's like, okay, I had to relearn it again and again, and there were more experiences in my life that reminded me, that's right, this is what's true.
It's definitely lifetime, like this whole discipleship thing.
Yeah.
It's lifetime, right? Like sometimes you remember, sometimes you forget, right?
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, I think we're still humans, right? But being part of community all the time,
yeah,
that kind of that helps, that accountability.
Yes.
I think that matters a lot.
Yeah. And so for people not to be discouraged when they see there has been growth, but there hasn't been complete and total victory in an area of their life, that doesn't mean that they aren't being discipled and aren't growing.
Right, exactly. Yes.
But having said that, let's actually get into the thing that that came up again with identity. We were talking about a little bit before the podcast about career stuff.
Yes.
So tell us about a little bit about your career path, and then this huge change that took place recently.
Okay, so I mentioned before, I was always be reminded by my family how privileged I am.
Yeah.
So the fact that I'm the only kid who got to study in another university that is outside Vancouver is a privilege.
Right.
So after coming back with some good grades, I have high expectation with an internship done at a global company. I had high expectation on myself in terms of what I was about to achieve in my career. But staying in Vancouver, not able to find a good job, that was quite discouraging. And I didn't know how to live up to that. So when I took the job in Hong Kong, which actually a vision that God gave me was, God allowed me to see that I am a good bridge between the East and the West because of my upbringing.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I need to find an occupation that allows me to be the bridge of me and different cultures.
How old you were 8? Is that right when you moved from Hong Kong?
I was 9.
You were 9 years old when you moved from Hong Kong to Canada.
So my parents don't speak English, so I was forced to keep up my Chinese in writing, speaking, my whole culture, pop culture.
Feels like it's kind of the right time of life to be able to really experience and kind of immerse yourself in both.
Right. Yes.
That transition at that age means, I get it. The bridge that you're talking about.
And I also don't look very Chinese. Like I have some look of Southeast Asian, I was told as well. So that is also kind of that as well. So when the job opportunity came for me to work in a company in Hong Kong, that does a lot of global businesses. So it's a global sourcing company, which means that we work with factories from all over the world to ship products to the major markets like US, Canada, Europe. So that was the company that hired me. That became my identity. Because I wanted to prove to my family and to prove to myself that, hey, this investment that you made in my in my university, I'm gonna pay off. So not saying that that became who I am, but that became very important for me. So I had no problem spending all my time working in the office. And God gave me good successes at work. So I was, also moving up quite fast. But when I do have a stumble, when I do stumble, people do make mistakes at work, or, if a customer kind of say something about, oh, I'm disappointed this is happening. Or if my vendor partner cannot ship on time, I will have so much, guilt for disappointing people that will eat me up. I will be so stressed, and then and I will feel so bad about myself. And then, of course, that means I lost sight of God, right? Because then I would try to even exert more effort in not letting this happen again, to try to be that people pleaser, right? So that people can say that, hey, Yvonne, this employee, she's a good employee. It's good to have her on the team. Hey, Yvonne, she's a good manager. She'll have your back, all that, right?
Yeah.
That became who I am, someone who's reliable and good.
Yeah.
Of course, I also want to use this as an opportunity to be a witness. But I can't say that's like my number one priority, right?
Work was a way of you kind of establishing your worth and value in some ways.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. And so that went on for 18 years, basically. But I would say by after 10 years or so, Siki is my husband, we're ready to move to Canada. And at that point, we were ready to actually, because we were like, okay, you know what? We should spend time with the family, because in Hong Kong, I work so hard. I don't see my kids Monday to Friday. I see them on Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
well, actually, no. Saturday morning and Sunday at whole day, because I do take Sabbath. But I don't see Ashley or Lyndon during the weekdays because I'll be at work like all the time.
Yeah.
Which is what CKI agreed that's not the right thing. So we're like, okay, we're moving to Canada. But then God, a couple gave me an opportunity to move to the US. And then it was an unbelievable opportunity because, and I was handpicked to take on that because I was like, I don't know if I can do it. And then the CEO was like, well, I don't have anyone else in mind, so it's yours. And he was so kind to be willing to make it on my own terms on how our family can transition there.
Yeah.
But that also gave me a lot of pressure, right? Because now this, important person put so much trust in me, introduced me to to this new field that I know nothing about, and he trusts that I will not embarrass him.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna have to try my best now.
Yeah.
And then of course that opened up a lot of politics around work because it was such a privilege to take on that position. So again, now I'm starting to deal with people and greed and all these things that you don't usually see when you're a worker, right? And I was just like, wow, I don't know if I want to do that, and it just adds, and there's just so many things happening that I just go I feel like my life is being sucked out of me, not because I'm so strained by the people issues that are happening, which comes with any big company, plus the fact that I don't see how I'm making a difference. Because, I don't see how I'm the salt and the light in this environment. Okay. I don't see how God is working in my life in this environment. And I'm still taking trips to Asia 4 or 5 times a year for 3 or 4 weeks each time. So it's not like I'm working any less, right?
Yeah, and not seeing your kids a lot.
Especially not seeing my kids a lot, right? And then, so we were like, okay, let's come back to Canada. And partly because we felt called. Siki and I both felt called to come back to Canada. Even though I was begging God to let me come, he never did. But that one time, he's like, you have to come because of the political unrest in Hong Kong. I think you need to come back to Canada to help people to either move to Canada or to settle in Canada. Okay. So CK and I decided, you know what, let's go, right? So we came back, and then, but I was still on this job, right? Which COVID happened, and I was able to stay on this job without traveling. But still, the identity of me sucked in, not seeing my kids, working, 24 hours a day, that killed me. And even though I found this amazing church at the bridge, I felt like I couldn't participate. I see Siki doing this immigration thing. I did the exam because he said, let's do it together, but I just don't even have the capacity to help him. And I'm kind of like, what am I doing? Like that's not why God called me to come back to Canada. God called me to come back to Canada to help people settle, right? To help people immigrate, right? To help people know Jesus, to actually bring my family to Christ. But yet I'm still putting my time in this, this hamster wheel, right? Just running. Yeah. And I'm like, and then so this is the conversation that I had with you, Craig, right? One day I was talking to Siki. I'm like, I don't know, I think I should quit. He's like, you should.
Okay. It's good when there's certainty like that.
Yeah, he's like, you should, right? Because he sees and this is where Siki and God always gives the perfect match. I'm this go, always worried, always. Siki's faith. Right? His name is Siki, right? Seek ye first the kingdom of God. To him, that's important, right? Okay. And he's like, and I'm like, but I'm kind of at that point in life, I was the breadwinner, right? I'm like, but if I don't work, we have the whole family, what are we going to do? He's like, listen, we're with family, right? We still have some runway. We'll figure it out. God has it all figured out. Just don't worry, right? Just quit, right? Just leave. So I remember stopping you in the parking lot one day, and I said, Craig, I don't know if you remember this conversation.
Which parking lot? Here at the bridge?
Yes.
Okay.
I remember. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember this conversation?
Maybe. Okay. Keep going.
All right. I remember asking you, Craig, I have a question for you. I want you to help me discern. And then you're like, okay. I said, I want to quit my job. And then you asked me a few questions. Sorry, I don't remember all the qualifiers.
Yeah.
But you asked me, I said, and then you asked me why. And I said, well, because I feel like I'm not giving time for my family, this, that, right? And then so you said, okay, all right, well, let me ask you a few questions. I said, okay. You said, are you going to personally benefit from any of this? Personally benefit from this decision? I'm like, of course not. I'm like leaving a job that provides me tons of financial security. No. Yeah. And then you asked me 2 or 3 questions about God, whether this is God's calling, right? And I was able to give you some very quick answer. And then you're like, done. That's it. Of course. Yeah, go quit.
Oh, is that right? Okay. See, Yvonne, I've had a few conversations with people. I think I do remember having this conversation outside the front doors of the church.
That's right. You were trying to get into the car and I was stopping you.
Okay.
And I was like, that's it? And then you're like, yeah, that's it. I was like shocked because I was like, wow, like I didn't realize, like, I guess I was just overcomplicating.
Okay. Yeah.
But I guess, so once I kind of make that decision to leave, still took me a while because of my responsibility. But once that I made that decision, I felt freer as a person, because I felt like, you know what? I don't have to, immediately answer to that message that someone texted me. I can wait. Oh, you know what? If I have to go to church at that time, I'm just not going to take that call. Or I'm just not going to accept that invite. I felt the freedom to do that, to say no. And that was very freeing. And then, of course, with that, I was starting to able to start showing up to all these amazing, gatherings at church, right? The women's ministry, right? The Monday prayer, right? I started showing up on that. I was just like filled. I was starting to become filled, right? I started to kind of uncover kind of who I am, what my identity is, and I started to see, the joy of like, serving Him and learning not to worry about, when's my next paycheck coming in. So Siki and I was able to kind of have that freedom for and then at that point, I was asked by you and the Mandarin group ladies to start the Mandarin group Bible study. And I was able to do that because I don't have a job, right?
Yeah.
So that was also very enriching for me because I have to now use a different language.
Some of the things that you were passionate about in coming to Canada in the first place, now you were actually able to start living into those a bit
and
more.
I was able to take my dad to appointments and this and that. So I was like, wow, I'm fulfilling that as a role.
Yeah. So you had talked about identity before and how much that was wrapped up in that. That was challenging for you not to have work giving you that sense of, like you've kind of talked about, like here are the great things that came, right? The sense of freedom and the being able to be part of things.
Yeah.
But did you struggle with that sense of loss in terms of value, worth, identity that came from work?
No.
Even though you had derived so much of that from work for 18 years. No. Well, you did.
No, I mean, I did. But I mean, I don't.
Like, no, you got wrong, Craig.
That sense of loss.
You didn't have a sense of loss.
Leaving that, I felt I gained a lot from those 18 years.
Yeah.
But it's time to move on.
Yeah.
And my workplace was very supportive of me leaving. Maybe they actually wanted me to leave much sooner. I don't know. But they were very kind.
Okay.
They didn't guilt trip me or anything, right?
Yeah.
And my boss at that time was a Christian, so he understood my decision when I explained to him why. So that was really nice. So I was able to, so I didn't know, I just felt that, wow, God has blessed us so much throughout those 18 years. I have so much good relationship that came out of it. Now it's a different stage. I need to learn what the stage is about.
And did it surprise you that there wasn't a sense of loss?
No.
No? Okay.
No. No, I didn't. If anything, when I hear like how people are working so hard, I'm just like, oh, I'm glad it's not me.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, at the moment, again, because your identity, you said, had been so wrapped up in your work, did it surprise you that actually when that was gone, that didn't?
Maybe because I have a year.
Okay.
To deal with this closure.
Right. Okay.
Right? It's not like I talked to you and then within 2 months I left the job. I had a year and a bit.
Yeah.
That to really say goodbye to this phase.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why.
Sure.
And of course that gave me some financial security, to kind of slowly build up my reserve, right?
Yeah.
Before I go into a famine.
Yeah.
But but at least I don't have to worry about work for a few months, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what enabled us, right?
Yeah.
So when that happened, I felt free. I didn't feel like, I felt that, okay, whatever praises or whatever people pleasing thing, well, that's that.
Yeah.
Here, now I have to be faithful in doing this now.
Yeah.
Although I do have to say, I do still suffer from time to time this, that person made that remark, maybe he doesn't like me. So I do still feel that. Or I didn't like Bible memory verses
in our leadership team.
Yes. And I last month I felt so bad because it was supposed to be a super easy verse.
Right.
I was so guilt-ridden. I had to confess to my 2 teammates who watched me completely not able to memorize anything.
Right.
But that really ate me up. So I do still feel that level of insecurity sometimes.
I mean, the whole Chick-fil-A apparel thing, obviously you feel guilty about that. There's a lot of things.
No, I felt that being a missed opportunity.
Oh, that's okay.
But I will go and seek out Chick-fil-A outfit from now on before I come to you, to church.
Right, yes.
I will make sure I'll get something before you come back from your sabbatical.
Don't Chick-fil-A fans, they wear cow costumes, right? I think that's a thing.
No, it's no cow. I don't know.
You go into one dressed up as a cow and they give you free things sometimes.
Oh, okay.
Anyways.
Good to know.
Sorry, I got us. Anyway. That was my bad. I got us onto that.
I don't know.
It was the guilt thing.
No, it's okay. No. But so the people pleasing aspect, seeking approval from others. Yeah. I don't think that completely goes away. Yeah. But I was so easily moved that loss. I was I'm okay with that.
So what would you say to people who are spinning in the hamster wheel, right? Who are working their butts off and maybe struggling to
find work.
Well, no, I'm thinking of people who have put so much of their identity and worth in work. And maybe it is that they've lost a job or maybe they're fully immersed in it. Yeah. What would you say to them?
Well,
because not everybody has the liberty of
just leave,
leaving or getting a part-time job.
And that was, again, a privilege for me, right? I was able to do that, and the privilege to have a spouse who was supportive of that. And the privilege of when I explained to my kids that, unfortunately, we cannot live the way we used to.
Yeah, right.
They were okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have support. I think that's the first thing, right?
Yeah.
I was blessed to have the support from the family to make that tough decision.
Yeah.
I think the second thing is, honestly, I probably wouldn't realize I'm on the hamster wheel, and if I were not part of the Bridge Church, right? I think there were, the sermons really spoke to me, right? Being part of a community, I really missed that, right? I was like,
because when your whole context is maybe the work environment, you go, this is just what you do, right? There's no other way to look at this. This is what everybody else derives their worth or value from.
Yes.
And then, but if you're immersed in a church community where people are going, actually, seek ye first the kingdom of God or whatever. Yeah. That's what you're kind of saying. Here was a different way of thinking about things, living and
out. And then there are also, I'm sure there are lots of professionals in this church who doesn't live the same way I did, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And they were still able
just having a healthy relationship with work being modeled by other Christians.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And knowing that I don't have to do that. I don't have to subject myself to that.
Yeah.
So that was light bulb, right?
Yeah.
I think that Seeker was trying to tell me that, but I wasn't listening, right?
Okay.
So being part of a bigger, sometimes when your spouse tells you something, you don't really want to listen to that.
Yeah.
But then when you see that recurring theme again and again, then I think that's like God trying to tell you something. And of course, like me also starting to be more intentional with, my Bible, my devotion, right? I think that has a huge part of that too, right? Like just knowing that, okay, this is not working. What do I do now, right? Yeah.
Okay. So it's an interesting theme in your life, with a thread there that has to do with community, right?
Yes.
From when you came to know Jesus to even here, where you're talking about discerning God's calling and the courage to walk away from a certain amount of security. I mean, community, the church, the people, the body of Christ has been a huge part of that.
Oh, yeah,
So one of the interesting things, too, that I know is true of you guys is that this is the first time that you were part of a church that it wasn't like a Chinese church, right? That was kind of a multi-ethnic church.
Yes.
Was that a tough decision to make, to go to a very different kind of church? And what have you learned through that?
Oh, well, I mean, so it was definitely intention. So there's also a couple of really good Chinese churches here in North Van. So I don't, not knocking anything off. But I think one thing, Sikia, when we first moved here, what we realized is, if we're going to a church, we have to go into a church with a great community, with a very strong children's program, because our kids go to a public school,
right?
And we see all kinds of things on the street in schools that are happening.
Yeah.
We're like, we got to equip them when they're young. So for us, what that meant, because our kids, mostly grew up in North America, we were like, they have to go to a church where there is a very strong children's program, and culturally, probably a church like the Bridge Church would fit them better. Then CK and I felt, well, then it's for the adults to learn to kind of adjust. It's easier for us, right? Okay. So that was the priority.
Okay.
And so it did take some convincing. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
It took some convincing with Siki.
Right. Yeah.
And Eric helped sell it.
Okay.
He was helping. He sold it for us.
So that university friend who was already part of the Bridge.
Yes, he was because we were looking for a biblically, strong church, teaching that very strong biblically, a good community. This, and Eric's like, you got to come to Bridge, right? And then I'm like, oh, I don't know, our English is not like native, right? We don't, I'm not sure how it's gonna work. And then he's like, well, if anything helps, like Craig plays basketball. I'm like, really? So that helped.
That helps sell Siki?
That helps Siki, yes. But of course, meeting you, I think and that was during COVID, right? Yeah. So when Siki and I first kind of said, Eric encouraged us to kind of send an email to you, which we did, and you were so friendly, right? And that was like, oh, okay.
Until now.
Yeah, now when we start talking about fast food.
Yeah. Anyways,
Anyway, so then we felt that you were also quite, welcome. You're not just welcoming, but I remember you being also quite authentic and open about your background. And I think, and you understood what we saw in terms of challenges around raising a family in the North Shore.
Yeah.
So that really moved us. And so we started coming. But I think what shocked us more is, actually, there are some Brazilians serving on staff. I'm like, interesting, right? Like, I thought it's a white church, right? Like, local white church. Why they're like immigrants serving on staff? But I just thought that was interesting, right? Yeah. Like, and I start to see, okay, like these people, like, they actually don't mind our accent, right? They are actually, they don't look at us weird. They actually all want to talk to us. They want to learn about us, our background, right? And they don't mind if we don't use the right words all the time, right? Or if we stutter, right? They don't mind that. And so that kind of put our guard down a little bit. But I think the prayer part. And well, for me, I always read the Bible in English. But I think for Siki, who reads the Bible in Chinese, who prays mostly in Chinese, right? That was a bit of adjustment, right? To share, especially about your walk with Jesus in English, right? That's super hard, right? But literally what helped Siki was the discipleship group that he was with Rico, right? And Socorro and Robert, which is also a pretty diverse group there.
Yeah.
And I think that just kind of helped us realize, hey, you know what? Again, the theme of the bridge, the bridge church, being the bridge. Yeah. I'm like, hey, and Siki be immigration, right? Hey, maybe, God's going to use us.
Immigration consultant,
Yeah. Maybe God's going to use us in this capacity.
Yeah.
Maybe we can help be the welcoming.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe we can help people slowly integrate into the church, right?
Yeah.
And for me, especially with the experience I had with the Mandarin group, what I realized, having a small group speaking your own language is not enough. There is so much the body of Christ has to offer. So much, right? But if you're only within your small group of, local language and you let culture stop you from the riches of what God has to give you, like, what a shame. What a shame. So my plug. The plug is, so Siki and I started last year. We started to do this thing called Lunch Bell. Basically, it's an ELL for non-native English speakers who are starting to attend the bridge. They might not be believers, they might be strong believers, whatever. But the idea is smaller groups, more intimate, share over food. Food always brings people together, and we spend the time to go through Craig's sermon. So it's on Sundays after church, and we all know how Craig's teaching is there's so much to learn from Craig's teaching. Twofolds. One is on the Bible, right? Because there are some new non-believers that are coming, so we have to give some context to that. And then the second part is the culture aspect, the jokes that you make, right? Like, like something like home run. What is a home run? Like, It's a baseball term. When you walk through 3 bases, you score a point, right? So those. Like,
so they're learning both of those things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So so those are kind of because people need to be able to practice and to know all these like Canadian lingos and all these things so that they can feel like they're more part of the culture, right? So that's kind of the environment we want to create, right? And hopefully, this year we're rebranding it as Global Newcomers Ministry. We are ready to, so we are inviting more people to serve in this ministry from different ethnic groups, right? We have representatives from Brazil, from Philippines, from India, Dr. James, right? And then from South Africa, Korea, Chinese, right? So we have different people coming in and out, serve in different weeks, right? So that people can see we are actually a very diverse group, right? We don't speak perfect English. It's okay not to speak perfect English, right? So that like we want people, like Siki and I generally want people to truly receive the gift of God through this community.
Yeah, that's so good, Yvonne. And I see, again, that another thread as we're kind of going through this, just with, like you said, the being the bridge, right?
Yeah.
And how you and Siki, both of your experiences and your passions coming together and being able to be expressed in a ministry like that. That's such a blessing to a church, but is, God using it to bring others to himself.
It's, Siki and I, like when we do this lunch, and I know people are like, what, you lose like your Sunday afternoon? Well, first of all, 2 things happen. One, we have a really good community group leader who takes my kids away, so we can serve freely. The second thing is Siki and I actually felt so good after every Sunday. Because we feel that, wow, these people, they are curious, they are learning, we are building relationship, they're becoming more confident. They ask, when is it next? Oh, why are we not having it next week? Right? Like it's really wonderful.
That's great.
Yeah, God's so good. God's so good.
Amen.
Like that not like for what he's done. And that we can be a part of it.
Amen.
So good.
One final question.
Yes.
So kind of my ending question for everybody.
Right.
what is the one thing that you've learned
yes.
from following Jesus over these years that you would want to communicate to others?
Yeah. Sorry, can you repeat that? I got distracted because I'm trying to.
This is the thing with not doing it on video.
You know why?
Yvonne checking her phone during the podcast.
You know
wouldn't have
why?
done that if this was on video. Yeah.
Because I'm checking on this email because one kid has an appointment through Zoom. The email doesn't come through until now, so now I can send it to that kid, and they can have that Zoom meeting in half an hour.
Okay. Well, we're almost done. Almost done, Yvonne. Last question. What's the one thing you've learned about following Jesus that you would want to communicate to others?
One thing I learned about following Jesus that I want to communicate to others. It is better to give than to receive.
Cool.
You get so much more. When you give, when you're in a position to give, it's really because God's with you. God's walking with you. Yeah. Right? I really think that.
That's what he made us for, right?
Yeah, we're here to be his steward.
Yeah.
Right?
To bear his image, to make him known.
Yeah, to make him known, to do his good work, right? To be his hands and feet. Yeah. So good to do that. Yeah. And so much joy. Yeah. So much joy.
It's great.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Yvonne. Thanks for coming on Beyond Sunday. It's been so good. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Despite your taste in fast food, I've really enjoyed
and
this
despite me checking my email intermittently. And this is to also say that Craig is very good at running podcasts, and Craig is not like, traditional pastor where, you're not showing respect because now you're checking my email.
I didn't even bring it up. It was you. You were the one who brought it up.
See, this is now me feeling guilt. So now I have to confess.
Anyway. You've got a lot of confession, a lot of repentance to do, Yvonne. But anyways, it's been great.